Okay, so we are finally here. I knew this day was going to come. Forza Horizon 5 HDR is amazing. This game looks amazing no matter what. Just the performance, it looks amazing. On SDR, HDR, no matter what. It runs like a dream. The frame time, the stability, the performance of the game is reference. This should be a standard. Every single game should run like this game. Perfect. So, you know, the game is a little bit boring for my taste. But aside from that, you know, taking it for what it is, it couldn't be better, in my opinion. This game could not be better. The performance and technically, the visuals, the HDR is perfect. So, what about HLG? This game actually taught me a lot about HDR. And what I learned on this game is HDR10 actually, it does have more information. And that's what I was looking for. I was saying, I am yet to find a single example of a game where I can see more information on the screen. So what I mean with more information, of course HDR has more information because it's 10 bits and it's a wider color gamut. Of course it does have more information. But what I'm talking about is something I can see, that I can clearly see, okay, this has additional information. So the HDR on the game has a higher resolution. This is my interpretation, okay? It's probably wrong, but this is what I perceive. The highlights, they have a crispness. They have like a higher resolution, a more detailed look. So basically, on SDR, or even using HLG, the highlights, they look low resolution. They are there, you get highlights, but they are low resolution and they lose the crispness. They are less bright and they are also slower. In my perception, the highlights don't have that responsiveness, that punchiness, that when you see it, it shines, but it goes away fast. It does this, boom. It just gives you a fast impact. It's amazing. It's amazing. So, just starting with the calibration screen for the HDR, you have that paper white. It's basically here. I thought the paper white was the base brightness, but on this game, it's clearly the maximum peak brightness. So you set that to 800 with HGIG, and you see that it clips. The highlight clips. You have a sample image that it tells you adjust this brightness until you no longer see. So basically, you see everything is white. So it's clipping the highlights. So it's perfect on 800. It clips, and then you have the overall brightness. I set that to 180. Okay, so 180. And 800, and the HDR10 is perfect. It's perfect. So, but here's the thing. I still like a lot the HLG, but I cannot say, or I cannot recommend you to use HLG over HDR10 at all. Okay, but let me tell you what I like about HLG here. I have my plasma TV down here. Let me just show you real quick. And I use the plasma TV as a reference. Actually, take a look at this. I'm gonna do a separate video about it. Take a look at this. Take a look at the OLED. They look almost the same. They are looking so similar. So here's the problem. HDR10 does wash out the colors a little bit. And I'm gonna change it now. So right now I have this HLG tone mapping off, color gamut native, saturation 5150, and I have the plasma TV. Just turn it on. It's amazing. You don't have to do anything with the plasma. Just whatever you do there, just beautiful. So on HDR, the colors are a little bit washed out. They are not washed out. They are a little bit desaturated. I would not call that washed out. They are a little bit desaturated in comparison with SDR, and especially with my plasma TV. So this is the reference for me, because this is what I like. The plasma TV, no matter what game I open, the colors look perfect to me. So this is my reference. So, but luckily on that HDR calibration screen, we have a saturation slider. So that's awesome. So on HDR, with that saturation slider to the maximum, it has less saturation than my plasma TV, but it looks good. It looks perfect to me. I would use it in that way. So let me change. So right now we already established HLG. It looks great. Another thing I like about HLG more than HDR10, again, it is not better, and I would not recommend you at all to use HLG here instead of HDR10. HDR10 is just superior. The highlights are brighter. So you look at the sun, it is brighter. You look at all the specular highlight details on the car, and they look much higher resolution. So why I'm saying it has more information, because basically when you have a 1080p image and you compare that with a 4K, you don't see additional objects on the screen, but you see the same objects more detailed because it has more information, it has more pixels. So that's the same feeling I am getting with the HDR10. The highlights are higher resolution. I would go as far as to say that they look higher frame rate to me, because they have that crispness, that responsiveness, that shininess that is fast. It's a flash. That's HDR10. So it is clearly superior. It is also brighter. I was measuring the sun on HDR10 was 730, over 700 nits for sure. And with HLG was on the 600s. So the sun is brighter, the highlights are a lot more crisper and impactful. They are, higher resolution, more detail. But one thing I like about HLG here is it looks with more depth to me, because the car, closer to the car, the shadow detail is lower. So the overall brightness of the image is a little bit lower, and then it goes gradually up on those highlights. So on Xbox, I think you have Dolby Vision, and Dolby Vision looks overall, it looks less bright than HDR10. Actually, I think Dolby Vision on Xbox is a better option for this game, even when it is not natively on Dolby Vision. It's just a conversion from HDR10. But that's the feeling I am getting here with HLG. It's looking less bright for the midtones, and it has more depth, and it is more colorful. It is more colorful. It's like my plasma, but I would still use the HDR10. So before I jump to the HDR10, I'm gonna change the game to HDR10. Before I do that, let me talk about black frame insertion on this game. So I was expecting black frame insertion at 120 to be like the way to go here, but surprisingly, this game, when you're driving, really the car is not moving at all. So the car, nothing is moving. The car is just there on the screen. So I mean, on the screen, the car is not moving. So all that shininess from HDR, you can definitely enjoy it with the highest crispness and fidelity. And then the only objects that are moving on the screen basically is, what is on your left and on your right. And those objects are not moving a lot on the screen. So they are moving, for example, you see this tree, that's not moving on the screen a little bit, but when it gets closer, you're looking at a tree. When it gets closer, it also gets bigger. So really, I was surprised to realize that it is not that much better with black frame insertion at 120. I'm talking about 120. At 60, of course it will. But it is perfect, and actually this game is so good, the performance is so good, that it allows me to achieve a rock solid 120. I have a 3080 12 gigabytes and a 5800 X3D. The frame time is rock solid, the performance is beautiful. So I do have to lower the graphics a little bit, and I cannot use ray tracing. But with HLG tone mapping on, black frame insertion looks beautiful. The colors are perfect. The level of luminance and the brightness is bright enough. It's a little bit brighter than this option, for example, HLG tone mapping off with no black frame insertion. So black frame insertion with tone mapping on is brighter than this. So it's not brighter on the highlights. The midtones are brighter. So it is perfect, but the HDR10 is so awesome that I want to enjoy that. So I would not play the game with black frame insertion because I really, really want to enjoy that HDR10, and black frame insertion with this HLG tone mapping on looks, it does give you some HDR effect, but it is not on it. It's not HDR, of course not. So maybe one day I do, yeah, let me try 120 black frame insertion. It looks amazing. It's a shame that we cannot get both on these displays. The only way to get 120 perfect motion resolution, perfect HDR, is to get an impulse display, to get a different technology, something like a plasma 2.0. Like, they give you beautiful colors, amazing motion resolution, 120 frames, G-Sync also at the same time. That would be perfect. That's what we need for gaming. I'm telling you, that's what we need. And I don't think they will give us that, because that would be the perfect display. So basically you have nothing else to buy. I don't think they will give you that ever, probably. Maybe one day. And if they do it, they will realize they made a mistake, because that would be a perfect display. So let's take a look at the HDR10. Okay, let me turn off my plasma. And by the way, the game is running at 1080p because I have the plasma at 1080p. And for some reason, there are some games that they don't let me do 4K upscale when I'm using the two TVs together. So let's fire up HDR10. Let me turn off the plasma. Let me turn off the plasma TV and see if I can change. See if I can change without restarting the game, the HDR. So I have here the HDR settings. Let me see. No, it's not gonna let me do it. I have to unplug the plasma. Yeah, I have to unplug it so it changes from not supported to letting me do it. Okay, so now let me turn off HLG. So we come here, select mode, 111, 3111. Turn off HLG, so we are now on SDR. And let me change this to HDR10 and see if the game gets the changes. It's not getting the changes. Let me try to change the resolution one time and see if it will allow me to do it. Let me change from full screen. Now back again. I think I'm gonna have to restart the game because this game loves to restart. Yeah, this game loves to restart itself because basically even to change some settings you have to restart the game, which is it's crazy. I don't know why. But yeah, let me increase the exposure a little bit because I was using it low, so you could see the HDR better. So let's take a look at HDR10. It is perfect, man. It is perfect. But I can definitely, after seeing good examples with HDR10, I can definitely say that, well, I cannot say it definitely, at least on the examples that I've seen, HDR10 always is washing out the colors a little bit. Maybe it's because this is a WRGB OLED and that, you know, wide subpixel dilution effect, but I don't know why with HLG I don't get that problem. So it's not, I mean, if somebody tells me, yeah, HDR10 is going to wash out the colors because when you push the brightness on these panels, it's going to happen because of that wide subpixel dilution effect, I'm gonna ask them, okay, why when I use HLG I don't have that problem? Why? So I should have the same issue and I don't. So that's a tough how are you going to reply to that? So yeah, 801, yeah, this is happening because I have to restart the game. Yeah, I have to restart the game. This is not looking right. Let me do that. Yeah, I do these videos one shot, first attempt, full honesty, no cuts, no edits. I don't. if I have to try it 2 times or edit the videos, I would never post anything because I don't have time for that. I have to do it one try. So yeah, I just want to see one more time the HDR10 and see the color difference, so I can tell you first, you know, having that HLG look fresh in my mind, tell you the difference in terms of that color saturation. It is good. It's not, again, the colors are not washed out on HDR10, but they are less. It is less colorful than with HLG, and you know, less colorful than my plasma for sure. So let's take a look again at that HDR calibration screen. And also, for some reason, the menu is looking I don't know why the menu looks like this, and it's like it is supposed to look like that because I see select, back, they are lower on the screen. I don't know why is that the case. Okay, so let's take a look at the game anyway. So you see the HDR is 800, 180, and let me adjust the saturation back to 100 just to have that as a baseline. Let's fire up the game and see how it looks. So I was playing it yesterday at night and it was fantastic. Fantastic. The driving on the game is not as good as I would like it to be for a racing game. I like GTA 5 driving more. So having that HLG fresh, this looks washed out. Okay, let me lower the exposure on the video. It is looking washed out. So let me change the settings. Let me just make sure that I have HLG, which I think I don't. I have tone mapping off. Yeah, so I have to use HGIG for that HDR10. And colors, I'm gonna change it to auto detect. Let me change the mode from game optimizer to cinema, so it allows me to do that change, so I don't have to use the color control app. But it's still not letting me do that change. Why? Let me try cinema home. Okay, so I'm gonna do this. I'm gonna change the input from I was changing it to console. Okay, so it's on PC, that's why. So let me change it to game console. that only affects the 444 chroma, which is not visible anyway, so it doesn't matter, to be honest. So let's change it now. See if I can change it now. Okay, I can change it now. So let's do auto detect 55, because on HDR the color space is DCI-P3. It is not Rec 709. So we can actually verify that here on this secret menu. If we change the colorimetry from auto to BT709, you see the colors change dramatically. You see the colors, they become washed out, completely washed out. So that's a demonstration that on HDR it is not on Rec 709. So the color space is the HDR color space here. So this is not looking washed out because I have an issue or a weird issue here or anything like that. So let's change the tone map into HGIG. So we see the sun getting brighter and popping with HGIG, and the highlights also. And I have this screen brightness on 51 because that's the black level of my TV. So we have auto detect 55, 150, no black frame insertion. No black frame insertion. So this looks, the colors, they look diluted. They look less saturated than on, with my plasma or with HLG native saturation 50. And even if I change this from auto, even if I change it from auto to native, it doesn't make any difference. Or the difference, it does make a difference, but it is imperceptible. So I change from auto to native. The difference is very small because it's on color depth 55. But this is not what I was using with HLG. With HLG I was using color depth on 50, and it looks as washed out. It looks about the same. So native 50 on HDR, native 50 and auto 55, they look very, very similar. So that's not the issue here. That's not the issue here. So what you can do, if you want to get closer to that SDR color saturation, because this looks a little bit diluted in comparison with SDR. Not a lot, because on SDR, if you are using, you see now the calibration screen looks right. On the menu, for some reason, on the main menu, it was looking diluted. Let me lower the exposure so you can see better the settings here. So we have HDR white point. So you see clearly from 700 to 800, I can clearly see that logo clipping. So I have the adjust brightness to 180, and the saturation, we can increase it. So I would actually increase it all the way up, and still with that saturation all the way up, well, it's actually giving me that saturation of the plasma. Yeah, it is actually it's a little bit less saturated, but it looks fantastic. It looks perfect. Actually, I would say this might look more natural, a little bit less saturated. Let me increase the exposure. So this might look more natural, a little bit less saturated than HLG. So this is the way I would play the game. This is the way I'm gonna play the game, because I'm getting max settings, ray tracing, all that goodness. I'm getting 70, 80 frames. It might go down, 87 frames. It might go down in more demanding areas, but the HDR is fantastic, especially those specular highlight details. So when I get those specular highlight details, for some reason the controller disconnected. So when I get those specular highlight details, they are fast and shiny and very crisp and smaller, with more resolution and more frame rate. It's like the highlight details, they have higher frame rate. But yeah, the depth of the image, it looks a little bit less less depth on the image, a little bit flatter than HLG tone mapping off, but again, it is better. It's a better HDR. So this is awesome. I wish every single game performs like this Forza Horizon 5. The performance, I mean, the frame time is just a solid line. Like, there's no, and these are Direct 12 games, which sometimes we see Direct 12 games with stutters, and this game is like a line. Even with G-Sync, with, you know, with a variable frame rate, the frame time is perfection. It's like a line. This is amazing. I wish every single game look like this. It has an HDR implementation as good as this. One final detail before I end the video. Make sure on Windows 11, I'm using Windows 11, you change what Windows is trying to push from 1500 nits to 800 nits using the CRU app. By default, Windows does not detect these LG TVs, and it's going to assign a random profile for the TV, like a default display profile. So it is detecting this is an HDR capable TV. It doesn't know what it is, and it just say, okay, we're just gonna try to send 1500 nits, and that's bad. That's bad because this is 800. So what you do with the CRU app, I have a video you can watch on my channel. I might post the link on the description. You just open that CRU app and you change the HDR metadata and you set the maximum pitch brightness of the TV. So Windows tries to do 800 nits, and it's perfect, man. I wish every single game was like this on HDR. This is looking amazing. So yeah, let me know if you have any questions.